I love the music. The DJ is incredible.
The people are really awesome.
Headshot. Sit down. And do it. Pass out. Wake up. Hate it. Pull up. Headshot. Sit down. And do it. Pass out. Wake up. Hate it.
Yeah, just hit me.
That's all we need to see. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Alchemix. You're now watching the Alchemix channel. And I finally got a chance to do something I've been trying to do for a while. We're going to do a review on the Traktor S4 MK3. It's a really exciting piece of gear. It came out with the Traktor Pro 3, which was a big step in the right direction for Traktor. And it's got a lot of really awesome features. It's got a few setbacks, and hopefully it's nothing that can't be fixed with some firmware updates. But in comparison, you can see compared to my huge tank over here that's just 2 channels, but it is standalone. It is a featherweight, tiny little piece of gear. In comparison to my Z2, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest mixers of all time for the price and the features and the ability. It's kept a lot of the great things about it and put it all in a convenient package here. Let's compare it to the SX3, which is probably its main competitor on the market right now. It is almost 4.5 inches skinnier than the SX3, which is quite a bit of table space when you're playing with extra DJs or other gear in the booth, whatever. That is a big advantage. It's also really nice when you're hauling it around. This is something in a small case you could almost just keep on your lap carry on, which is really a big deal for a lot of us DJs. We don't like to check our stuff if we can avoid that for obvious reasons. It's about a 1/2 inch less thick, which personally I don't care too much about that. I like my gear to be the same height as a standard turntable, but that's me being a weirdo. Obviously you can put something underneath it if you want all your gear to be at the same height. It's about 4 pounds lighter than an SX3, which is really impressive when you consider the fact that it has motorized jog wheels on board. That's something that makes you wonder why. The jog wheels are really nice, really articulate. One thing I noticed though, the tension that you can adjust, it doesn't really adjust anything when you're in turntable mode. When you're in jog mode, you can feel how heavy it is with the tension all the way up and how light it is with the tension all the way down. But when you turn on the turntable mode, for some reason that immediately disappears. It probably has something to do with the fact that it's got to spin the wheel or something like that, but it's a little surprising. It's got the haptic feedback, which is awesome. For some reason in my mind, I thought it'd be a little more magnetic, like it would almost make it stick when you got there, but it's not like that. It just gives you a nice little vibration, and it's just about perfect. You can turn that up or down from fine to coarse, and really it's an awesome little feature there. 4 channels is great. It's always wonderful when you can visually see when you change from decks A and B to C and D. You can see how it goes from blue to gold. That's a super awesome feature. I'd like it if you could maybe change the LED modes to have a full ring and just a little blank spot for your decks or whatever, but so far I can't find any settings that let you do that. Overall, the little screens on board are genius. I've heard there's a hack where you can make it show you full waveforms, which most people probably wouldn't need, but a lot of us old turntable guys, we like to hide the laptop under the table and not look at it all. So I can see how that could come in handy for some people, but that is a hack. That's not a Native Instruments normal setting in their features. Overall, I genuinely think this is a huge step in the right direction. I've been waiting on the MKII of this Z2 forever, and I probably will continue to wait forever. In my opinion, it's still like one of the greatest pieces of hardware for the price that you could own. I love having the loops on the decoders here. That's really functional, and you can see it right there on the little screens, as opposed to like the RX2 or most Pioneer gear where you have to set your loop size and then manually engage or disengage it, or if you're using the pads, you just have to know what loop is assigned to what pad, which it's easy to get mixed up on. So that's really nice in my opinion. Loops on decoders it's superior. A huge advantage over the standalone gear. The color effects on the RX2, they're set in stone. You got your dub echo, your noise, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to change. And Pioneer does not like to do firmware updates. They like to bring out a new controller and make you buy the new controller if you want 2 more color effects or something like that. Whereas with these swappable effects that you can put on the filter knobs, you get to choose whatever you want and you get to play with it. You can swap it out for different sets or performances. That's a huge advantage in my opinion. Super glad that they did that for us, and I hope that more controllers have similar features to that in the future. One kind of disadvantage I'm surprised they did not fix over Traktor Pro 2. It doesn't seem that there's any vinyl break FX or anything like that. You can take your pitch and slowly pitch it down yourself, but it's clunky and not likely to actually sound like a vinyl break. So it's kind of weird. I've heard that they did a full lockout on this. The big advantage of Traktor was always that you could map it to anything. You could change it how you wanted to it. And I hear that now the S4 MK2 is pretty much how it is, standard. Can't work with Rekordbox, can't work with Serato or anything else, which is kind of a disappointing fact where I get it. You're trying to get proprietary like everybody else is, but ultimately that was one of the features that really made Traktor and all of its gear very special, was its universal ability to be programmed to anything you wanted it to. One other oddball feature for me, because I'm used to Pioneer gear, it's how their little tempo faders work when you're switching between the decks. I don't know if it'd be easy for me to explain, but essentially on Pioneer gear, you have to move the fader to where back to stock, and then it'll grab the tempo of the new deck that you're on. Where with this one, it'll actually like put the tempo when you switch it to master, and then it moves from there, and you have to bring it back off of master tempo in order to be at master tempo. It's kind of a funky feature, but honestly, if it's what you were used to from the beginning, it probably won't make a big difference to you at all. It's still a standalone mixer, so you can line in CDJs or turntables. You don't have to have it connected to a computer for that, but you're going to lose extra effects and stuff that you would have in Traktor. At the end of the day, though, I didn't think that they could take an SX2, SX3 size controller and shrink it and maintain 4 channels and keep all of the ability to perform at that kind of level. I thought that the SX2, SX3 balance of playability, performability was about as good as it was going to get. And I'm very impressed that they managed to shrink it not only like a little bit, but I mean, this thing is 4 pounds lighter than the SX2. That's a big amount of weight, like especially when you're lugging gear around. So that's it's very impressive to me. Very exciting to see what happens in the future. Gives me hope that we can get down to hopefully standalone gear that's this size and full functional with the motorized jog wheels. I know I'm probably dreaming about stuff that's 5-10 years out, but that would be so freaking awesome. All right, so wrapping up on my end, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the screens on this bad boy. I noticed when you have a scratch sample, something really short, it doesn't actually line up exactly accurately. If you place a cue, that's where you want to start at, but it's kind of mismatched. That mod I was talking about, the designer is a guy named Joe Easton, and he charges $5, and it keeps the full waveform at the bottom, and it gives you a scrolling waveform in the middle. It looks amazing. I haven't seen a lot, but the little clip of it that I saw, it looks on point. And unfortunately, really, it should be something that Native Instruments had going from the beginning. If it can do it, it's something they should have done or already gotten in a firmware update, but you know, they tend to do this to us. It was somebody else who modded the same thing for like the S5, so we can't always count on them for all that stuff. I'm going to turn it over to the owner of this controller. Her name is Queen Bee. She's awesome. She is currently trending right now on Mixcloud on the global charts at 8th and 11th respectively for the beats and the breaks charts. She's awesome. The guys who have been with me from the beginning on my channel, like, first of all, thank you. But you know, in all these years, I have never asked once for a like or a subscribe. That's just not me. You guys will never hear me ask for that. If you appreciate my content, I know you'll subscribe, and that's really the kind of subscriber base I'm looking for. This is the first time I'm going to ask you to support this woman. And the only reason I can possibly do that is because I believe in what she's doing. She is freaking awesome. She is currently trying to get on stage at Dirty Bird, and I desperately want to help her. We're going to put a link in the description. If you just go, give it a listen, give it a like. If you really like it, give it a share. It's going to help her. She's currently in 16th, and she's climbing daily, and we would love it if you would help us get her on stage at Dirty Bird. So with that wonderful little blip there, I'm going to pass it over to Queen Bee. She's going to tell you a little bit about her feelings on this controller and share some of her awesome skills with you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. So I came to DJing about 2 years ago with a lifetime of music curation experience. I grew up in a very musical household, and you know, we listened to music and made music together instead of watching television on the regular. So my parents are actually some of my biggest fans, believe it or not. My 76-year-old dad is rocking trap, and it's pretty awesome. So I bought, my first controller was an S4 MK2, and I found that controller to be very obtuse, so very esoteric, and it just didn't make sense. I didn't really know how to flow with the controls on the MK2. I might feel differently about it now, but it didn't make any sense to me when I bought it. And it was recommended to me by all of my DJ friends as like the best entry-level 4-channel controller that I could get, and that was the thing that was recommended to me. And I trusted the recommendations, but it just collected dust. So for the first 6 months or so, it just kind of sat in my house, and I dinked around with it a little bit, but mostly I just didn't know where to start. The moment I laid eyes on the S8, I was in love, and I knew I had to have it. I knew that that was the instrument for me, and that's where I did most of my learning. But the reason that I have this bad boy is somebody dropped my controller on New Year's, and fortunately I had it insured. So shout out to insurance, insure your gear, because I was refunded the entire retail price of what I paid for the S8, was able to replace it. And I loved some of the features that shipped with the MK3. I decided to give the MK3 a try over the S8 because I'm just not doing music production right now, and that's really what that controller is geared for, is being able to do live production alongside with your DJing, and I'm just not there. I'm really focused on what I'm doing specifically right now, and it does not include production. Someday, maybe I'll get there and I'll put the S8 back in production again, but maybe something better will come out by the time that happens. So some things that I really like about this, and keep in mind that my comparison, because I've only ever worked in the Native Instruments ecosystem, is really going to be to my experience with the other controllers before. I think the thing that the convenience that I'm really missing the most from the S8 is that I can't do really fine-tuned pitch control with the click of a button. I used to be able to shift up to the top and bump stuff up by 0.1 or 0.01 or even a full BPM. I tend to stay pretty locked in my BPM range from 127 to 134 when I'm playing breaks. So this is totally not applicable when I'm doing bass music or doing drum and bass, but when I'm doing, 4 on the floor, break beats, I don't really switch up the BPM very much. And I actually tend to use sync quite a bit too, for all you haters out there. And so the S4 just doesn't have that. I have to use the software to change the BPM, or I have my, my pitch here, but it's not exact in that I don't know exactly how much it's going to nudge when I move this fader. One thing that I really, really, really love about this over the S8 is the placement of the screens. They're high resolution screens that are about, I don't remember if the numbers are 1440 or 1024 by 768, but like it's really, really high density for like what, 1.5 inches by 1.25 inches or something. They're really tiny, but they're super high resolution and they're placed exactly where my workflow is because most of my attention is on the bottom half of my controller. So they're useful, incredibly useful readouts, and I found with the S8, despite having those beautiful digital readout screens at the top, I just wasn't really using them. I was still very much locked in the software and paying attention to the software. Another thing that I really like about this controller is the placement of the play buttons and the cue buttons, because on the S8 I had a play button at the bottom in the very, very front of each deck. They might have even been mirrored as opposed to for on decks, and I could accidentally hit the play button in the middle of playback, in the middle of a live set. I could stop the music full stop, and I have actually done that before, but not with this one. This controller has changed all of that, and I've never accidentally stopped playback. The deck select, I think Joey already covered this, but I really like that the colors change when you toggle into deck C and D. And sadly, with a laptop, I don't really get to play with 4 decks very often because it takes up all of my screen real estate. And just the way that I play is so like on the fly and dynamic, I need the file browser, and toggling back and forth between the condensed players with the waveforms and back to the full waveform view. And I use the parallel waveform view in Traktor 3, which is a major, major upgrade. It's just not really feasible for me. And I'm hoping that I can find a solution for that, or that Native Instruments introduces something to sort of mitigate that problem. Like something like this bad boy over here, the Pioneer, an onboard, like a fully onboard controller. I know that they were trying to do that with the S8, and you still got to have your laptop, sadly. So I think between the two of us, we've covered all of the features of this controller that really make it what it is. It's really super lightweight. It's low profile. I can take it anywhere. I just put it in a little briefcase and carry it with me. And it feels good. The sliders feel good. The knobs feel good. It's just like a really, really pleasant user experience for me. So with that, I'm going to play some tunes for you. And please, please, please like my mix on Mixcloud. We're going to provide you with the link. It's the Dirty Bird Records 2019 DJ competition. I was a top 10 finalist last year, and getting back into the top 10 again this year will pretty much guarantee that all the cool kids at Dirty Bird listen to my mix and consider putting me on stage at the camp out. That is some distortion.
Put on the pitch lock on the channels.
I'm sorry.
Okay. There will be some trolls in the comments. again for me, because then I can isolate it and hopefully cut most of it out later.
Example?
That your little notification
yeah.
sound.
I'll just play one more. I fucking love this track so much. I must have fucked the pitch up when I was playing around with the settings. I was playing with the keyboard. Because I have it on key lock over here, but
There's something funny about the way when you move those pitch sliders, how it like affects, especially when you change between decks A and C and D. There's something I'm not used to about it.
someday we'll figure it out.
One of these days.
Hand me my glass of wine.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Just give them a thumbs up. They love thumbs ups.